Have you ever thought that the sweet apple pie, the very symbol of America, might actually be one of the most dangerous foods on your table? The pie once tied to childhood memories. Thanksgiving and family dinners has now been twisted into an industrial product with a tough crust apple filling laced with additives and even color preservatives. Many pies out there are no longer made with real fruit. Instead, they are packed with chemical syrups and artificial flavors designed to trick your taste buds. Some of them are even kept in cold storage for months before they ever reach consumers. When you think you are enjoying the safest dessert in America, you might actually be eating more additives than real pie. This video will uncover 5 types of apple pie Americans should avoid at all costs and suggest safer choices, so you no longer have to worry every time you cut a slice. We are not here to scare you, but in today's world you need to be prepared for the worst even when it comes to food. Number 1. McDonald's apple pie. Do you remember the old days when every visit to McDonald's wasn't just about burgers and fries, but also that little apple pie that felt like the perfect comfort dessert? The warm paper sleeve, the crispy crust, the soft apple filling inside with a hint of cinnamon. For so many Americans, it was the taste of childhood road trips with family or a quick bite after school. But the question now is, does that childhood treat still hold its value? Or has it become nothing more than a cheap industrial product in disguise? The truth has already been revealed. McDonald's shocked customers when it admitted that back in the early 1990s, it had completely replaced the traditional fried apple pie with a baked version. The reason sounded health-conscious, but customers didn't feel any healthier. Many complained that the crust was now thick, chewy, and far less appealing. Some even went as far as calling it an industrial dough block rather than a real pie crust. What's worse, rumors began circulating that the dough used for the crust might actually come from leftover burger buns on the production line. If true, that would mean the apple pie is no longer made from a unique recipe, but simply a way to reuse the cheapest ingredients to maximize profit. And the filling inside, not much better. Do you think you're eating fresh apples? In reality, most of the filling comes from bulk frozen apples soaked in sweet syrup and mixed with artificial flavoring to mimic that fresh taste. Experts have also pointed out that thickeners may be added to create a glossy, smooth texture, masking the fact that the apples are mushy or lacking natural flavor. In other words, what you thought was real apple is nothing more than a dressed-up industrial mixture. Then there is the issue of additives. For such a small apple pie, the ingredient list is enough to make any label-conscious customer cringe. Alongside sugar and corn syrup, you will find flavor enhancers, stabilizers, and sometimes artificial caramel coloring. This is no longer a simple dessert, but more like a lab experiment wrapped in a crust. For those who still remember the old version, a pie with a crust fried to crisp perfection and a filling that tasted naturally sweet, this change feels like a betrayal. What makes people even angrier is the sense of being deceived by a major brand. McDonald's built the image of its apple pie as part of American nostalgia, then quietly turned it into a cost-cutting recycled product. Customers are still paying as if they are buying a traditional dessert, but in reality they are getting a cheap industrial snack cleverly marketed as something more. So if you still make it a habit to add an apple pie to your McDonald's order, it may be time to stop and ask yourself, are you paying for a childhood memory or for a recycled fast food product? Share your thoughts in the comments. The last time you had a McDonald's apple pie, did it taste anything like the memory you grew up with? Number 2. Walmart Marketside apple pie. Let's be honest. Every pie at Walmart is designed with one goal in mind: to squeeze the most profit out of you every time you shop. The sense of convenience and taste has been baked into American shopping culture for decades. That's the very trap that makes so many families bring this product home without a second thought. The problem is Walmart Marketside apple pie is nowhere near as simple as the golden crust you see on the outside. First, let's talk about the no sugar added version. The name sounds like it was made for health-conscious shoppers, especially those watching their blood sugar. But once you read the label closely, you'll realize it's not nearly as safe as advertised. Instead of regular cane sugar, it's loaded with artificial sweeteners, maltitol, sorbitol, sucralose. They may sound scientific, but they belong to a group of sugar alcohols well known for causing bloating, diarrhea, and stomach cramps, especially in older adults with sensitive digestion. Which means one slice of what looks like a healthy pie could end up being a gamble with your stomach. As for the traditional Marketside apple pie, the problem shifts elsewhere. The crust is often made with shortening from palm oil and soybean oil. These are cheap, shelf-stable fats, but they make the crust heavy, hard to digest, and far from natural. Many people have said the crust tastes more like sweet cardboard than a real handmade pastry. Even worse, shortening is packed with saturated fats, hardly the best choice for anyone keeping an eye on heart health and blood pressure. And it doesn't stop there. Another red flag is the mass production process. These pies are usually prepped in bulk, frozen, then shipped to stores to be reheated or sold as is. So don't be surprised if that fresh pie you picked up has actually been sitting in a freezer for weeks. Shoppers may see a golden brown crust, but inside it could be nothing more than reheated frozen apples disguised with syrup and artificial flavors to trick your taste buds. More importantly, the Marketside apple pie is a textbook example of cheap comes at a cost. You pay less for a bigger pie, but what you're really getting is a bundle of industrial ingredients and hidden additives dressed up to look appealing. For Americans who grew up on homemade apple pie with fresh apples, hand-kneaded dough, and the warm scent of cinnamon, facing a product like Marketside can feel like a real shock. It's cheap not just in price but in value. So before you toss a Marketside apple pie into your cart, ask yourself, are you buying a real pie or just a block of industrial ingredients shaped to look like one? Tell us, have you ever bought a Marketside apple pie and did it really taste fresh and homemade style the way they promised? Number 3. Little Debbie apple pie. This is the pie many people spot at the convenience store, priced about the same as a small cup of coffee. But that cheap price isn't the bargain it seems. Hidden inside are truths that would frustrate anyone paying attention. First, let's look at how the brand builds its image. Little Debbie has long been positioned as America's family friend, always present in those easy-to-grab snack packs. Their apple pies are often placed right at the checkout counter, waiting for shoppers to pick up on impulse. But behind the friendly smile on the packaging is a long list of ingredients: corn syrup, high fructose corn syrup, preservatives, and cheap oils. This isn't really an apple pie anymore. It's an industrial snack disguised as nostalgia. What angers people even more is the quality of the filling. Instead of real apple chunks, Little Debbie uses heavily processed apple puree mixed with thick syrup. When you take a bite, the first thing that hits your tongue isn't fruit, but an overwhelming sugary blast. The apples are drowned out completely, leaving you with the sensation of chewing a block of chemical sweetness. For many middle-aged Americans who grew up with homemade apple pie, this feels like nothing less than a blatant trick. And the crust. Forget about a flaky crust baked with butter or quality shortening. What you get is an industrial dough with an oily smell, dense and chewy, that sits heavy in your stomach. Some people even joke that the crust of a Little Debbie apple pie feels more like a sheet of sweet plastic than actual pastry. That alone shows the company doesn't care about the eating experience, only about cutting costs to squeeze out maximum profit. Another issue worth noting is the cheap filler strategy. These pies are sold at a price far lower than anything from a local bakery. Consumers, especially those living on fixed incomes, are easily lured by the affordability. But chasing that bargain means exposing yourself to industrial sugars, cheap oils, and preservatives. Over time, the real cost isn't on your grocery bill, it's on your medical bills. The heart of the frustration is this: Little Debbie has exploited people's sense of familiarity to sell a low-quality product. They rely on their image as a national snack to secure shelf space, while the actual pie drifts further and further away from what the name apple pie is supposed to mean. So the next time you see a Little Debbie apple pie with its unbelievably low price, ask yourself, are you buying a snack or just a bundle of additives wrapped in a fake crust? And share your thoughts. Do you actually taste apple in there? Or just an artificial sweetness drowning everything else out? Number 4, Hostess Apple Fruit Pie. If there's one piece of advice to remember when shopping, it's this: don't be fooled by flashy packaging and a familiar name. Hostess Apple Fruit Pie is proof of that. At first glance, the box alone convinces many people this is a classic choice. Simple, sweet, and tied to the snacking memories of an entire generation. But once you flip open the nutrition and ingredient label, the first thing you may feel is not joy but disappointment. The biggest concern with Hostess Apple Fruit Pie is its ingredient list, which reads more like a lab formula than a recipe. Apples, supposedly the soul of any apple pie, make up only a small fraction. The rest is corn syrup, palm oil thickeners, preservatives, and artificial flavors. Ask yourself a simple question. Why does an apple pie, which should only need 4 or 5 basic ingredients, turn into a laundry list of additives? The blunt answer: to sit on shelves for months to look appealing no matter how long it's been there, and to churn out mass production at the lowest cost. The second red flag is the apple filling itself. Hostess often uses apples treated with sulfites, chemicals that help fruit keep a bright color longer. For people who are sensitive, sulfites can trigger allergic reactions or respiratory discomfort, which means even the apple filling the part you look forward to most is no longer natural. Instead of real fruit, you're getting preserved produce packaged to look fresh. And what about the crust? It's made to be thick, dense, and durable, but at the cost of flavor. One bite can feel like chewing a shell pressed from oil and flour, with none of the flaky texture that defines a traditional pie. Many people have said it feels more like biting into a long-shelved packaged snack than enjoying a freshly baked dessert. From a consumer's perspective, this feels like a betrayal of brand trust. Hostess built its name on convenient nostalgic treats once found in lunchboxes and office snack drawers. But when older customers come back for a taste of memory, they don't get the flavor they remember. What they get is an industrial product overloaded with additives. That's why many now call Hostess Apple Fruit Pie a marketing pie rather than America's family pie. Most importantly, this pie doesn't just leave you unimpressed. It sparks a deeper doubt if even apple pie, the most iconic dessert of all, can be stuffed with this much filler. Then what food can still be called truly honest? So if you spot a Hostess Apple Fruit Pie sitting in the snack aisle, the best advice is to walk past it. Don't buy into trust that's been packaged with preservatives. And I'd love to hear from you the last time you tried a Hostess Apple Fruit Pie. Did you actually taste apple? Or was it just an artificial sweetness masking everything else? Number 5. Sara Lee Dutch Apple Pie. If you've ever believed that a big brand one that has been on American dinner tables for decades would never let you down, it's time to think again. Sara Lee Dutch Apple Pie is proof that even the oldest names can put profit ahead of honesty. The problem isn't their popularity, but how they maintain a home-style image, while the product itself drifts further away from anything homemade. You look at the box and see a golden, crumbly crust apple filling that looks juicy like it just came out of a family oven. But in reality, what's inside is an industrial formula designed to look like real pie. The main ingredients aren't fresh apples cooked with cinnamon, but processed apples soaked in corn syrup and thickened with modified starch. The crumb topping, which is advertised as the signature highlight, is loaded with cheap vegetable oils like palm oil and soybean oil. These aren't chosen for flavor, but for low cost and long shelf life. The result is a topping that's crunchy, but quickly becomes greasy, leaving an unpleasant, oily aftertaste. Consumers aren't getting the richness of a true Dutch pie, only a mass-produced imitation dressed up as homemade. What frustrates many middle-aged Americans is the sense of betrayal. For years, families saw Sara Lee as a symbol of steady quality, a name that belonged in the freezer aisle for generations. But opening a Dutch apple pie today, they don't find the familiar taste they once trusted. Instead, they're met with a pie heavy on industrial sugar, loaded with oils, and missing the soul of a traditional dessert. And beyond the ingredients, there's an even bigger concern: the brand's silence. Sara Lee still advertises with a warm, family-friendly tone, evoking images of home. But they never mention the long list of additives in their product. Consumers have to uncover it themselves on the label, which for many older shoppers feels like a trick played on their trust. Hearing all this, you might be wondering, is there any apple pie left that's actually worth trusting? The answer is yes. Amid a sea of industrial products, there are still a few choices decent enough to bring to your table with confidence. Number 1, Sam's Club members mark 12-inch apple lattice pie. What makes this pie stand out right away is its Blue Ribbon Award from the American Pie Council National Pie Championships. This isn't some self-proclaimed marketing title, but a prize judged by professionals in the baking industry. Out of hundreds of entries, the members' Mark Apple Lattice Pie earned recognition, which says a lot about it being far more than just another store-bought dessert. Take a look at the ingredients, and you'll see the difference. Instead of a long label crammed with additives, the list is simple: apples, flour, sugar, butter, cinnamon. Yes, there are preservatives to make sure it can be shipped in large quantities, but far fewer than the brands mentioned earlier. It's straightforward enough for shoppers to read without needing a chemistry degree to figure out what they're eating. Another plus is its size and style. At 12 inches, this pie is bigger, resembling a homemade pie set at the center of a dinner table rather than a quick snack. The lattice crust allows steam to escape while baking, keeping the apple filling moist and tender instead of turning into a sticky, syrupy mess. Each bite delivers a balance between the sweetness of sugar and the natural tartness of apples, something many industrial pies have completely lost. Most important of all is the sense of trust. Buyers know they're getting a product that has been judged and recognized, made with a clear formula and nothing to hide. In a market where too many brands cut corners with cheap fillers, the Sam's Club members' Mark Apple Lattice Pie stands out as one of the rare options that makes consumers feel respected. Of course, it's not the perfect pie. It's still a product from a major supermarket chain, so some industrial steps are unavoidable. But when the choice is between a long list of pies stuffed with additives and one that has earned national recognition for quality, this one is clearly the smarter pick. Number 2, Wholesome Apple Pie. If you're tired of apple pies with ingredient labels that read like a novel, the advice is simple: try Wholesome Apple Pie. This is one of the few brands that still holds on to transparency and integrity in every pie they make. What makes this product stand out is its simplicity. You don't have to squint at a list of unpronounceable chemicals, because the main ingredients are apples, organic flour, organic cane sugar, organic palm oil, and natural spices. What you see on the label is exactly what you're eating. That alone brings a rare sense of peace of mind, especially for anyone worn out by overly processed foods. Unlike most frozen pies, Wholesome follows a clean label philosophy. The fewer additives, the better. That transparency makes consumers feel respected. They don't have to wonder whether the filling has artificial coloring or if the crust is made with cheap oils. The answer is clear here: no tricks, just honesty. Another plus is the eating experience itself. The apple filling retains its natural flavor without being drowned in syrup. The crust is crisp, but not heavy. It's the kind of pie that reminds people of traditional apple pie. Maybe not quite as perfect as one baked fresh at home, but far closer than most industrial versions. In a market where many big brands choose to cut corners and hide behind additives to maximize profits, Wholesome feels like a breath of fresh air. It proves that consumers can still find products made with real respect for the people buying them. Have you ever tried Wholesome Apple Pie? Share your thoughts. Did you notice the difference compared to other store-bought pies? Apple pie was once considered a true symbol of America, but not every pie deserves that reputation. From the big brands tied to childhood memories, to the cheap products stacked on supermarket shelves. Far too many have chosen profit over honesty. The good news is you still have the power to choose pies that are decent with fewer additives, more transparency, and greater safety.
This video does not promote division within the United States or encourage segregation. All content is presented for the purpose of exploration, analysis, and fostering discussion based on current events, public sentiment, and social trends. We fully respect the United States Constitution and all federal regulations. If today's analysis made you think, drop a comment so we can keep the conversations going. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you will never miss our next independent deep dive.